VRAX was one of the bloodiest sieges in the Imperial history, but it didn't have to be. In this video I will explain how Kriegsmen could have conquered Vraks in less than 1 to 2 months, with minimal losses in both personnel and material. This video shall be split into 4 parts, those being how to bring down the Vrax's void shields, how to take out enemy AA installations, how to take out enemy trench lines and bunkers, and finally how to take over the hive with minimal casualties whilst fighting in a highly urban setting. Okay, with that said, let's start off the video, but before we do that, more than 86% of you who watch my videos aren't subscribed, so if you enjoyed this one, remember to hit the like and subscribe buttons. Okay, enough shilling, let's just get into it. First, we have to get rid of the most difficult thing on Vraks, that being the hive's void shields. Void shields on Vraks protected both AA as well as anti-orbital installations that made orbital bombardment of the world nearly impossible. Well, at least without heavy casualties that the Imperium simply couldn't afford. So the guard had to switch to another way of bringing down the hive's shielding. So they came up with the idea of just continuously peppering them with artillery until their void shields gave out. After which Kriegsmen's artillery and air power could get rid of both AA and anti-orbital installations. And we do know that Kriegsmen often rely on this exact form of strategy, because we see it quite often in the lore. Siege of the Rundin being quite a good example, where Kriegsmen besieged a larger settlement than Vraks with less artillery and men. And in spite of that, still managed to bring down the void shields and reduce the whole hive city to rubble. So let's calculate the amount of ammunition and TNT required to take down the Vrax's void shields. Kriegsmen had roughly 300,000 men in the artillery branch on Vraks. Assuming that all of them were artillery crewmen and none of them were logi officers, trajectory calculators, artillery tractors, maintenance personnel, support vehicles and so on, which is highly unlikely, but let's go with it, and also assuming that each artillery gun was a large caliber Earthshaker, which is definitely not correct since a lot of the artillery was made up of mortars and lower caliber weapons, then 300,000 men of artillery branch divided by 8 men required to service the Earthshaker gives us a figure of 37,500 Earthshakers. Assuming that the Earthshaker has a better life expectancy of its slightly larger IRL M777 relative 155 versus 132, we get that each Earthshaker could fire about 2,500 shells before needing barrel replacements. Let's say that Kriegsmen brought about 10 spare barrels per gun. That would mean that each Earthshaker could fire 25,000 rounds in its lifetime, which checks out since after that many rounds the whole thing, including the breach, targeting system and carriage, would need to be rebuilt. So 25,000 shells per gun times 37,500 guns is 938 million shells. Assuming that all of these shells are HE shells comparable to M777 HE shells, which carry an explosive equivalent to 10.8 kilograms of TNT, we get that 938 million shells times 10.8 kilograms per shell gives us a figure of 10,130,400,000 kilograms of TNT. So the needed explosive power to take down the void shields would be equivalent to 10,130,400 metric tons of TNT. For comparison, Hiroshima's second sun had a TNT equivalent to 15,000 tons of explosives, which would be 675 times smaller than Krieg's artillery. Even Tsar bomb, the strongest nuclear bomb ever tested, would be 5 times smaller than it. So I think you are all wondering, how are we gonna take this thing down? And the answer is quite simple. Asteroids. An asteroid with a diameter of about 51 meters, which is roughly the length of an Olympic swimming pool, traveling at a standard impact velocity of 20 kilometers per second, would release kinetic energy equivalent to 10 million tons of TNT, aka what we need to take down the shielding. So all you have to do is ask Mechanicus to build you 151 meter concrete slabs coated with tungsten for heat resistance, and they should also put a couple small engines for maneuvering, and also a small cockpit for a servitor implanted with trajectory calculation software. These ships are supposed to just crash into the shields to take them down. They shouldn't be that hard to hit because Vraks was huge and its shielding was even larger. To anyone saying that this can't work for one reason or another, both Macarius, Firehawks, Abaddon and Gazku did the exact same things against heavily fortified targets in the war. Macarius and Gazku by flinging asteroids, Firehawks by using a miniature sun, and Abaddon of course by by using a Blackstone fortress. But if this trick doesn't work for whatever reason, just get 500 asteroids, tie them up to starship fighters, screw them with Kriegsmen pilots, and tell them to bonsai charge for the Emperor. If you are not a fan of throwing asteroids at a hive, then you can also get 5 Tsar bombs and tell Kriegsmen to launch them via the artillery at the hive. And yes, Mechanicus can build nukes. Literally every Krieg regiment has 1 to 2 Deathstrike missiles equipped with nuclear warheads. So after the void shields get downed, you have to use your fighters and bombers to eliminate AA and anti-orbital installations. Both are good to take out, but anti-orbital platforms should take the priority for elimination. Speed is of the essence, as such ramming attacks should be permitted. Once the anti-spaceship threat has been degraded, the Imperial void ships should get into the high orbit just outside of the range of the most of the enemy's remaining orbital platforms. From there on, they should start dropping tungsten rods towards the enemy trench lines and bunkers. Each tungsten rod that hits the ground would have the same explosive equivalent of a small nuclear explosion. Due to limited time of only 1 to 2 hours until Vrax's void shields recover, these orbital strikes should be primarily focusing on either one of 4 cardinal directions, north, west, south or east. It doesn't matter which one you choose, just that you do choose one. Reason for this is that if you have all 4 sides of the compass protected, if one of those sides gets neutralized, the rest are basically useless, because they don't mutually protect each other. So the traitors have to make a choice. Are they gonna exit their defensive lines and face the Kriegsmen in an open field engagement, where they're gonna face an army with better training, bigger artillery reserve, total air superiority, as well as superior armored forces, or are they gonna give up the untenable external areas and focus on the defense of the hive itself? In order to accomplish all of this in a tight amount of time, aka 1 to 2 hours, the overall commander of the ground forces and the commander of the fleet should be on the same battleship, for easier coordination and sharing of COP, common operational picture. Okay, now that the Kriegsmen have established an entrance to the hive, how can they capture it with minimal casualties? Hive cities are highly urban settings, and as we all know, the urban warfare heavily favors the defender. Also, a lot of the hive would be inaccessible to both the Air Force as well as possibly even to the armored vehicles. So what can be done about this? Well, Kriegsmen would have to utilize 3 things: grenades, drones and the poisonous gas. Now let's talk about how should they approach hive fighting. Step 1 is pumping the hive with poisonous gas, which should eliminate some 50% of the overall population that aren't carrying gas masks, aka non-combatants like the sick and disabled alongside women and children. From here on out, Kriegsmen would have an advantage since their basic training consists of fighting in clouded gas chambers. After the gassing of the hive is complete, step 2 should commence. Here Kriegsmen should employ thermal scopes, aka auspex, to locate exposed enemy combatants and use drones to neutralize them. This can be done with either servo scopes dropping the hand grenades on hostile targets whilst being concealed by poisonous gas, or by using modified and up-armored Goliaths equipped with las cannons to destroy the enemies and minimize casualties. When it comes to heretical units occupying interior areas of buildings, there is only one way to flush them out, that being truly holy amount of the Emperor's hand grenades. Chuck 5 to 10 grenades per room and that should make sure that no one survives. If you still keep hearing noises on the other side, try using Molotov cocktails. The only downside to this threat are the civilian casualties, but you know, fuck them, they're heretics. Anyway, your main objective in the hive is to reach the water purification sites. Human body can last weeks without food, but only 3 days without water. These water purification sites should be contaminated with a modified deadly HIV disease that is extremely tolerant to high temperatures, even exceeding 100 degrees Celsius, and only shows symptoms a week after digestion. This is to prevent it from being easily destroyed by boiling or getting noticed too quickly. The reason why this virus would spread quickly through the heretical ranks is simply because heretics don't care about cleanliness, and oftentimes drink from each other's canteens, or due to their equipment shortages are oftentimes forced to use communal spoons and forks. If Biologus Mechanicus is for whatever reason incapable of creating such a virus, then you should simply divert the water supply out of the city and wait for heretics to die of dehydration. Removing water supply also prevents the ability of the heretics to produce more food food via the algae farms and thus would cause massive unrest. You can utilize this unrest by saying that whatever heretical faction brings you the head of the cardinal is gonna receive full pardons from the Imperium. Now of course this is a lie. Right after they exhaust themselves doing that, they're gonna face the wall, but they don't know that. If you encounter a highly defensible enemy position where all the enemies are carrying gas masks, having night vision and can be starved out due to their excessive stockpile of food and water, you can simply get a lot of butane gas sourced from the decomposing bodies, fill the enemy room with it and blow it up. Another thing which should be implemented would be medical brigades, which would follow advancing assault elements. And then in case of injury, patch up the wound as well as Kriegsmen's own uniform so that it doesn't get infected and so that the Kriegsmen can get back into the fight as soon as possible. Anyway, on that note, that would be it from me. If you like this video, remember to smash the like and subscribe buttons, comment down below if you agree or even disagree. Until the next time, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Goodbye.